Hey guys, I'm Rob.
And I'm Jonathan. And guys, tonight we have a very special guest. I'm kind of freaking out about this. We've been waiting to have him on the show, and it's finally happening tonight.
Guys, I am starstruck right now. He's the former UFC lightweight champion and future Hall of Famer, Frankie Edgar.
Frankie!
Yeah, there he is.
sorry, we had some technical difficulties, bud, but we are back and in full effect.
All good, all good.
Talking to one of the greatest fighters ever, and our fucking computer goes out. Great.
No worries, no worries.
All right, let's jump right in.
Okay, so yeah, you defeated BJ Penn when he was in his prime to win the UFC lightweight title. It is still considered one of the biggest upsets in MMA history. The odds at the time were minus 1100 for BJ Penn and plus 750 for you. So, what was it like going into a fight with those odds, and how did it feel to overcome it and eventually then win the UFC lightweight title?
Yeah, going into that fight, I mean, everyone was doubting me except, the closest people to me. And, I mean, that was when BJ was the man at the time. He had that aura about him. He was, drinking blood off his gloves from his opponents and whatnot. So, yeah, I knew I believed in myself. I knew I could do it, but I knew it was going to be, not the easiest task. So, yeah, when it all went down and it happened that way, that's something I'll never forget. It's definitely one of the greatest moments of my career, winning that title over BJ, and definitely proving the doubters wrong for not the first time, but definitely one of the early goes.
Absolutely, and that actually goes down as one of the biggest upsets in MMA history, and it was just an amazing fight, and I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah. And while we're talking about BJ, so it seems like in the MMA world, everybody kind of has that arch nemesis, that one person they can't beat. Early on in your career, you lost twice to Benson Henderson, you lost twice to Jose Aldo, but on the flip side of that, you were the one person BJ Penn could never beat. And he's arguably one of the greatest in the sport, and especially at that time, he was the pinnacle of that division. So I just wanted to ask you, what's that mental game like when you're going into a fight against somebody you've never beat, or when you're going into a fight against the person you've always beat?
Well, you got to look at it both ways. Kind of have to just talk to yourself in both situations, and it's almost the same argument you're telling yourself because, when you're saying the guy that lost to a guy and you're rematching him, you want to be like, this guy doesn't have my number. You hear that in wrestling, the guy's got his number, or the matchups, styles make fights. I try to refuse to believe that. I think on any given day, as long as I prepare correctly, I should be able to beat a guy. But then on the flip side, say I'm fighting a guy, I beat him once, I'm rematching him. I got to think no, you know what? I do have this guy's number. He's just not on my level. And, I don't care if it's once or 1,000 times, I'm going to beat him every time.
Amazing.
Right. Yeah, and like you say, the first BJ Penn fight was close, but the rematch, you dominated it. And you really proved to the world that you are the champion. There was no questions after that, for sure. Your next title defense, though, was against Gray Maynard. And at that time, he was the only man to ever defeat you. So do you feel there was more pressure going into that fight since it was the only man that ever defeated you? Or was it more pressure going into the BJ Penn fights with, almost with those odds and everything else going against you?
Yeah, I always say I just feel like the pressure just keeps getting more and more,
Right.
from each fight. From my very, very first fight in the Bronx in like a boxing gym all the way to my last fight, I feel like whether it's your first fight in the UFC or your first fight after a loss or your first UFC title or you're defending it or you're fighting for the title, all these situations, the pressure keeps getting more and more. So
Right.
that I think is always the same for me. And, I put a lot of pressure on myself, for a reason.
Yeah, it's so interesting to hear how fighters can kind of can just separate that from themselves. Where it's like, you often hear fighters just go, it's just another fight. It's like, dude, I watched the fight on Saturday, and I felt like I was getting in the fucking octagon, like my stomach was turning. I can't imagine what you guys go through walking in the ring. So, so you are a father, and you are also your son's wrestling coach. I wanted to ask you, what's it like balancing being a coach and being a dad at the same time? And is it hard watching your son compete, or watching your son lose a competition? And lastly, is it hard for you to allow your son to watch you fight?
Yeah, well, I have one son that competes in wrestling, and I think any parent watching the kid, whether they did the sport themselves or not, is gonna be a little nerve wracked watching your kid. You want to see your kid do well. that's kind of essentially a PCU out there. And it just the fact that I know what I'm doing, it helps a little more. Or sometimes we butt heads because of that too. But he gets it, and so even my daughter, she's starting to do jiu-jitsu now. She's only 6, so taking it nice and slow. But it's fun. It's fun being able to share. I get the family. It's like like the old school kung fu movies. You learn the family art. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
passing down the family art. You know what I mean? And then the fact that they get to see me compete. That my sons have been to my fights before. My daughter, she's just starting to watch a little bit, and they get a kick out of it. My sons understand it now, 10, 11. My one who competes, actually, we were just watching the Ortega zombie fight, and Ortega hit Zombie with that really nice elbow, and I was like, damn, beautiful elbow. And my son looks at me, he's like, hey, Dad, he's got a nice elbow. I'm like, dude, you son of a bitch.
Just a ball buster. What a little ball buster, man.
Yeah. So now I'm not holding back. When he maybe gets pinned, gets taken down or something, I'm gonna be like, oh.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that dynamic, man.
And I have 2 daughters myself that are 7 and 9, and prior to the lockdown, they were training in a jiu-jitsu MMA school, and I could tell you, there is no better feeling than watching them win, when they're grappling and stuff like that. Or sparring. Oh my God, it's the best feeling. I get so excited. So, what's that like for you watching your son compete, and what advice would you give to your sons or daughter if they wanted to professionally fight in MMA?
Yeah, it's great seeing my sons compete. My son, especially in wrestling, because that's what I came up doing. But watching him play football, watching my other son play baseball, my daughter, dabbling in jiu-jitsu. It's just always good to see them, compete. Competition is so big in my life, and I think competition gets you ready for other things in life too. So see them compete is awesome. And if they ever came to me, like my son has mentioned that he does want to fight, in the future, and I was kind of like trying to, shrug him off, on that topic. But, if he keeps being persistent with it, and, I just tell him, I was like, if you take this 100% seriously and know this isn't like a game you could play, it's not really a hobby. You could train in Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, boxing, all that stuff. But as far as fighting, it can't be secondary. It's got to be your primary thing. So if he's 100% with it, I support him 100%.
That's amazing.
I was just thinking the first day we went, I was actually nervous for my daughters, especially when they started sparring. And I was like, oh my God, what if they get hurt? And my daughter was actually up against a boy. And I'm like, oh my God, this isn't even fair. And she swept him. And I got on top, and I was like, yeah, good job. She came over, she was all excited. Did you see that, Daddy? I'm like, oh yes. I was like, ear to ear, it's amazing.
It's all about
the best. Absolutely.
I love how you say that, it's not a game. You can't play mixed martial arts. And you really have to go, you have to go balls to the wall and all in. And I wanted to chat a little bit about, what some of the obstacles you came over when you started out. When you initially tried out for The Ultimate Fighter, you actually didn't get accepted on the show. Then a month later, you get a call to fight in the UFC, and he's another undefeated fighter, Tyson Griffin. How do you feel about this whole notion that everything happens for a reason? Do you think that your career path would have been different if you were actually selected to be on the show?
I think that everything happens for a reason is could be just used in all things in life, and it seemed like it worked that way for me.
Yeah.
As long as if it went the other way, maybe we wouldn't be saying that. But I remember, like I said, I remember getting going down to Hollywood, Florida for that tryout, and I believe it was the season Gray, Joe Lazon, I think BJ and Jens both were the coaches, and I remember meeting Dana for the first time right before I'm doing my grappling session. And he shakes my hand, looks at me, he's like, "Man, you don't look like 55er." I'm like, "Damn, dude." I'm like, I fought 70 a couple fights ago. He's like, "Yeah, what the heck? Get the hell out of here." I'm like, "Yeah." So, but I thought I was gonna make it too, man. I did really well in the grappling, the pad work. Talking with the producers, maybe I wasn't the most, loud or
eccentric, yeah.
Eccentric, yeah. And but I did get a call, 2 months later, a month later, to fight UFC. So things, I guess you could say, happen for a reason.
Amazing.
And I was reading somewhere that you asked the UFC to fight Corey Sandhagen next. He had a very impressive TKO victory against Marlon Moraes, and he is currently ranked number 2. Has there been any updates on this fight, or if that's even true? And what would be your game plan against an opponent like Corey that has very good footwork?
Well, I mean, I never really. I mean, the rumor I heard was that UFC wants us to fight.
Okay.
And I mean, we'll see what happens. I'm kind of I just had some stem cells treatment, so I'm recovering from that. But yeah, I mean, I want to fight the best guys. He put on a great performance. It would make sense. I kind of want to see what happens with the title fight too in December. But yeah, I mean, he's a great fighter. He looks really good against Marlon Moraes,
sure.
and he does have good footwork. I mean, I have pretty good footwork myself. I think we could definitely put on a good fight together.
It'd be a great fight. And he's ranked number 2. Would be a great fight.
Yeah, I mean that division is just absolutely fucking stacked right now, dude. It's like I'm 195 and I wouldn't fight in that fucking division. I wouldn't go near it. Wouldn't go near you guys. All right, so another thing I want to talk about. I remember how frustrating it was when you didn't get a shot at Conor at 145, and then when he dropped out, when RDA dropped out. They wanted you to step in, and you couldn't fight due to an injury. So aside from injuries, it also seems that fighters, a lot of times, their hands are tied when it comes to getting the fights they want. So how do you deal with that frustration? And what are your thoughts on people skipping over the rankings and fighting somebody, or like getting a title shot above someone who's ranked higher than them?
I mean, if fights happen, they happen the way they happen sometimes.
Right.
You can't, going through your career. You can't dwell on a fight that you couldn't get because what's the point? Let's just my thing is let's worry about the next challenge. And as far as people jumping in line, it depends what you do. I kind of get why they do that. It's a lot of times this isn't who's the best fighter. Sometimes it's a popularity contest.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but you can't just be popular and not win fights. You still do have to win fights. So
right.
As long as you take care of that, like. I always say winning has a way of taking care of itself, and they're taking care of things. So if I go out there and win all these fights, and I'm going to make sure that puts me in a position to at least get called upon, for a title shot or for a big fight.
Yeah, and I just got to commend you, man. Like I remember when that stuff happened. I remember seeing the frustration on your face, and I got to say, dude, the way you handled that was just such a fucking class act. It's like I knew how devastating that was, but soon after the whole thing happened, you're just open about how angry you were at the time, and how the more you thought about it, you kind of just accepted what happened, and I was just blown away by the way you handled that. So props to you, man.
Oh, thank you, bro. Absolutely. Thank you. You can't dwell on things too much. You got to let it bother you a little bit, otherwise, just show you knows you're alive. Yeah. Lights that fire sometimes, but again, can't dwell on it.
So in college, we're gonna go way back. You were an NCAA Division I wrestler, and what I thought was ironic, and I don't know if this is correct, you were wrestling at 141 pounds. You started out in the UFC at 155, but you're now fighting all the way down at so you're fighting at 135, which is below your college weight. So how much weight did you have to cut when you were fighting at 155, or even when you fought at 170? And did you have to change your diet or your exercise routine to be able to get down to 135 consistently?
Yeah, well, at 55, I cut 0 weight. I mean,
wow.
My first fight in UFC, on the way to weigh-ins, I stopped at the food court in Mandalay Bay and ate a cheesesteak. So
wow.
And
oh my God.
And then so for 45, I cut a little bit, minimal still. And now 35, I could say I'm like probably I walk around with 55. I cut about 20 pounds. I did start my diet, 8 weeks out, but making weight the week of weigh-ins and all that felt very comparable to 45. I was actually surprised. I felt probably better than I did even at 45, my last weigh-in.
Wow. So, because since you weren't cutting weight at 55, did you have was there some sort of strategy for that, or was it just, I mean, at the time, I don't even know, was there 45 at that time? I can't even. No, okay, so that's right. So you really had no choice but to start out at 55.
Right. Kind of lack of options there a little bit.
Got it. Okay.
All right. So let's just call a spade here. You are on track to be a UFC Hall of Famer. You've slayed legends, you've won championship belts, and you've defended them. In your opinion, what has been the highlight of your MMA career?
It's tough for me to pick just one thing. Winning the title always has significance because, reaching the top of what you're trying to do and being at the pinnacle is something that I'll never forget. But I'm learning that as you get older, you realize that it's definitely a journey. It's not always so much about everything. The awards and the titles and whatnot. And these past there's always fights that stand out to me, like the Yair fight, the Mendez fight, even this past fight with Pedro Munoz, because whether it be something that happened in the camp, an injury, or just a situation you're dealing with outside of the sport during the camp, or maybe the way people perceive the fight was supposed to happen, those fights definitely stand out for me.
All right. Well, Frankie, that was our last question, but now is the best part of this entire interview.
My favorite part.
So this is the one thing we don't tell our fighters when we interview them. You've gone 3 rounds. You've gone 5 rounds. You're about to go 10 rounds with Rob and Jonathan. These are quick fire answers. These are very serious questions. Are you ready, Frankie Edgar?
Let's go.
All right. What was your favorite cartoon as a kid?
Thundercats.
Oh, fuck yeah! Dude! Yes! Dude, I still don't know why they never turned that into a movie. That would be amazing.
Oh my God. They'd kill it.
That lead segues. If you could play the lead role of any movie, which movie would you pick?
Rocky.
Oh yeah, dude.
One of my favorites. I love Rocky.
Rocky might be a reason why I fight. I don't know.
Yeah. Amazing. All right. If animals can talk, which animal would be the most annoying?
The most annoying. Oh man, this is a tough one. I'm quick, man. All right.
That's okay.
The most annoying. The most annoying. A bird, I guess.
Yeah. Birds are annoying. Yeah.
Annoying shit. They are annoying.
They're already annoying.
All right. So when you were in school, if you forgot to study for a test, would you cheat or would you just take the F?
Oh no! You ain't cheating. You ain't trying.
All right. This next one. Answer carefully, Frankie. Answer carefully. Who's a better cook, your wife or your mom?
Oh, dude, I don't have my mom. My wife won't even get mad.
Okay. If you could replace one body part, this is a good one. If you could replace one body part with a super bionic replacement, what body part and what feature would the new bionic replacement have?
I guess eyes, like eyes that can maybe like see through shit,
Oh yeah, dude.
I could.
Oh hell yeah.
I could see your ATM number or something.
Dude, you know what's crazy? It's so crazy you said that. There was this article out last week where this I think it was an Australian biotech company. They're developing the first bionic eyes that actually could allow blind people to see for the first time in their lives.
Oh wow!
Wow, really?
Yeah.
We're living in the future. We are living in the future.
All right. So, if you were forced to eat the same meal every day for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Ooh, steak, rice, steak and some rice.
Yeah,
the best. The best.
Yeah.
All right. Would you rather be lost in a bad part of town or lost in the forest?
I'd rather be lost in a bad part of town.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can handle yourself. You can handle yourself. You ain't got nothing to worry
The
about.
woods, I don't know, bro. I'm from Jersey. The woods.
All right. This is my last question. Rob has another one. What's your one daily ritual that other people might think is weird?
Oh, dude. I watch Jeopardy.
It's the best. It's the best. Dude, my fiance said, like, every time she'd come home, I'd be like watching Jeopardy. She's like, "What the fuck is with you in this show?" And I was like,
Yeah.
"You don't get it. You don't get it. It's a lifestyle."
It is.
Okay. This is my last one. It's my favorite, actually. Would you rather have the police hunting you for a murder you didn't commit, or a psychopathic clown hunting you?
Oh, the clown.
Again, because you can handle yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, it's awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah, I won't get in trouble for clapping back at the clap.
Well, Frankie, I just got to tell you, man, this was absolutely awesome, and truly honored to have you as a guest on our show, man. I literally look forward to watching you get inducted into the Hall of Fame, and I applaud all that you've done, and you truly are a class act, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Guys, thank you so much, man. I had a blast here chatting with you guys. So
yeah, thank you.
Let me know. We'll do it again in the future.
All right, guys. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Rob.
And that's Frankie fucking Edgar. All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye.